Hey guys, so this will probably be a shorter video, but quite complex, because what we're going to do is we're going to set up the whole functionality for actually firing the arrow and all of the action tags that we need for it and preventing some stuff, also continue aiming. And I just want to make it feel really fluid, so there is no like junky animations, like spaces between it or anything, and it actually feels good to fire the bow. And the reason why I said actually it's complex because we do have multiple actions on the right mouse button that is like blocking and aiming, and those are very different, so we'll have to separate them slightly. And also on the left mouse button we want to fire arrow, but at the moment we are executing action which is aiming, so it wouldn't work with the regular setup that we have there either, so we have to change that as well. So let's just go ahead and start and we will get through it. And first thing I want to do is let's actually go to animations and bow, and one of the animations that was in the download link in a previous video is this bow fire. So what we want to do is right click and we're going to create a montage. So create any montage and open it up, and we're going to change this slot to upper body. So that will change it to upper body so we can actually move while we're shooting. And then to set it up we need to go to left mouse button. I'm actually going to move this way because we'll need more space for right mouse button and a left mouse button as well. So let's just select all this under right mouse button and then hold shift and just move this down. If you have it in a mess like me, if you have it clean, then you don't need to worry about it. And then this one I'll just move somewhere down here as well. And then this way I'll also move this. This will be like a bow section. And that will leave us a little bit more space for right mouse button, which will be all this. I can move it down. Alright, so here on the left mouse button, at the moment what we're doing, we're checking if we can execute the action and if we have enough stamina. We don't want to do that on bow. On the stamina, I'm not decided yet how we're going to set it up. If it's on drawing or shooting, we'll see. But for now, we want to actually switch on the bow after here, because we don't want to execute this functionality with attacking and stuff. It's going to be different. So we need to get gameplay tags, sorry, current combat type. Get it, and we're going to switch on current combat type, connect it to true, and all of the weapons will go back to where it was. Don't worry about no weapon. And then bow will have a separate functionality, and this is a really good habit to have because we will have multiple actions executing on the left mouse button, so it's always good to separate it. But when we want to get to bow to shooting, we won't get past this because we are already executing action which is aiming if you're holding the right mouse button. So the way we can get here if we are shooting the bow is we're going to do OR boolean from this end. And we're going to check manually from gameplay tags if it has tag, character, actions, aiming. So if we can execute action normally or have stamina, or we are actually aiming, we will go to true, and that will go to bow because we can only be aiming with a bow. And then we will do one more branch. And with bow attacking, what we want to do is we have set up gameplay tag which is can fire arrow. If you remember in the last video we've done it in a crosshair, which I don't have open. I'll just quickly show you so we kind of know what we're talking about. So here on this zoom crosshair function, when it's full, basically we tell player that he can fire arrow. So that way, if we can fire arrow, we want to actually fire it. So gameplay tag, we're going to check hashtag, character, checks can fire arrow, and if we can, we're going to straight away remove it so we don't fire it twice. Remove gameplay tag, and this will be the same character, check, scan, fire, arrow, and then we want to play montage, which will be fire, bow fire montage. Get the skeletal mesh, connect it, and this will play the fire montage. So now we can test it out. What is going to happen is we equip the bow, right click, and then we fire. Alright, so obviously we don't have an arrow yet. We'll do that in a separate video, but for now this is working fine, but it's only doing it once, as you can see, and at the moment it's not resetting the crosshair after I fire. So to fix it resetting crosshair, what we're going to do is we do have a dispatcher inside combat component. Also, we have set it up in a previous video, and it is this fire arrow. And what it does is it tells crosshair that it actually needs to reset all of the crosshair stuff. So we will get combat component and we will call fire arrow. So that will reset the crosshair, but it won't actually make it start again. For that we need to do a few things. First, after the mesh, after it's completed, we want to continue action. Continue action. So in case we have some action lined up, we will continue it, but the action we will be lining up is we holding the right mouse button still. So we will be checking, are we holding right mouse button first? And if we are, we will continue right mouse button. So it will continue here. No, that's cancel, sorry. Continue RMB, and it will start the aiming again. And before we can do that, it actually checks if it can execute action, which we can't again because we are still aiming already. So what we need to do is we need to remove current action tag, just briefly, and then if you continue the action, it will straight away continue right mouse button and it will add new tag, which is aiming. Before also, just to make few things work better, we need to cancel right mouse button quickly. So cancel RMB, and I'll explain the reasoning behind it after, but it just works generally. It will work better. It will go a little bit smoother. So now we should be able to actually continue, but then we will have to change a few things in the right mouse button as well. But now if you equip the bow, shoot, it will reset, and as you can see, it continues. That's working kind of fine when I'm standing on one spot, but then if I start moving and shooting, you can see this is what it does. It's trying to blend between the animations because I'm moving, so he moves like bow really awkwardly. I hate it. It's quite easy way to prevent that, and that is, let's go to montage, and we're going to remove this blend out trigger time to 0, change it to 0, and we're going to add our inertialization, which we have set up in Anim Blueprint. By the way, if you still haven't set up inertialization, because that was only in one video, you need to go to your ABP Money, and there is a node you need to add to Anim Graph. This one here, inertialization, and you add it just before you execute everything else, and that will just pass it through that node. That is a custom function already pre-built, and it will just make it blending like smoother based on the movement. So now if you do the same thing, so shoot, I'm moving, and you can see I'm just doing the normal animation of drawing the bow and firing arrow. So that looks much better. But then if I fire arrow and let go, first of all, as you can see, some things are not working correctly because at the moment I'm like zoomed in, it didn't zoom out, and the rest of it is actually pretty much good. I can fire arrow, it will stop and stuff, but just few other issues that we have, that if I fire arrow and let go straight away, it is cancelling my animation of firing arrow. So I fire, I move, and you can see I'm not firing, which won't make sense because the arrow will actually be flying. So let's prevent few issues. So first of all, zooming. So actually what I said in the previous one, it's not this that was giving me issues, the second variable. We don't actually need it. That was wrong. It was this fact that we do set these variables here in the beginning, but we calling this start bow aim couple times, and we calling it also and setting these variables when it's changed already. So these variables are different to start with, so it doesn't know where to go back to. It will just basically save it even when it's at the end. So what we need to do, we can actually remove these two. We don't need these variables, except for you need to have values from it. So this one is 75. I'll add 75. This one is 150, 75, 45. So I'll delete it, 150, 75, 45. So remove it from here, just so we don't have too many variables for no reason. Alright, but then this one, we're not going to be setting here. We just need to get the default camera field of view, which is, I think, 90, yeah, so 90, and we find the variable, which is field of view, camera field of view, and we're going to set it manually to 90 by default, so we'll always go back to the same position. And the socket offset is just default 0, so we got it set to 0 anyway. So just remove these ones from here and add it to timeline. And that will fix the issue to, if you zoom multiple times, you can actually zoom out. But what we want to do also at the moment is very fast in reverse, sorry, very slow. So let's see. So now I can zoom out, it will zoom out. But if you let go of the bow, it's zooming out quite slowly. I want to do it faster when we let go of the right mouse button. And for that we need to set the play rate of this timeline. First I'm going to rename it to something like bow zoom TL. So bow zoom timeline, and then we're going to find it in the components here in the variables and find bow zoom timeline, get it, and we're going to set play rate. And here we will just set it back to 1. So it's not important, this will just be default. And then on the reverse, we're going to set it to 2. So it goes twice as fast. And reverse. And then the rest of it is the same. Compile and save. Now, if I fire arrow, it zooms out quite quickly. So I think that's much better. And now let's prevent this to actually cancel the animation when we let go of the right mouse button. Why it's doing it is because at the moment, where am I? In combat graph, yes. So at the moment, when we let go of the right mouse button down here, we basically don't have animation selected because we don't know which one we're playing. If it's the idle one when we're holding the bow drawn, or the one when we're drawing the bow. So we need to cancel one of them. But then also when we fire arrow and we let go, it cancelled this one. So we basically want to prevent cancelling right mouse button, doing all these events until we complete this fire montage. And the reason for that is just even if you prevented cancelling that animation, what would happen is we would turn off the strafing, and then if you were to hold left mouse button or something, your character will, as soon as he's firing basically, and he will turn left even with the bow and everything, because that's the direction he's supposed to be facing. So it would look awful because your arrow will fly from you like forward, but you would be already turned left. So we don't want that. We want to prevent this happening. So let's just change it up slightly. what we're going to do is here we're going to check is holding RMB. We still need to remove it, that's all fine. But then after we're going to remove this and we're going to get a gameplay tags. Sorry, current combat type again, not gameplay tags. And switch it. So again, we'll switch and do different functionality. So for the weapons, we will still do branch. Connect all of the weapon combat types. Again, don't connect no weapon. And then we will check just this first part, is action blocking. Control and X, paste it here and connect it. And then if it is, we will remove this last switch that we have here. Control X this capsule radius and paste it here, because that's we only changing capsule radius on the weapon, so we will remove it. And then we go back to remove. We need to actually stop the montages, so stop any montage and remove gameplay tag. And then from the bow, we need to check if it's aiming. So we're going to do it separately. Do branch. This is going to be a little bit messy. Cancel RMB disconnected. Actually, this needs to go here to remove current action tag. There's one here. Yeah, like this. And then cancel, I'll just leave it for now. And we're going to do branch hashtag aiming from the gameplay container. I got lost there for a second. So, okay. So is aiming branch from the bow. Are we aiming? And we also need to do one more thing. So we will do end boolean. And we're going to check if we are not playing this fire montage. Instead of setting up like tags before it and after it and all that stuff, we're just going to simply get mesh. From there we will get anim instance. And then we're going to check get current active montage, which will give us the name of the montage that is currently playing. And if it's not equal the bow fire, search for it, or fire, whatever it's called. So bow fire montage, make sure you select montage, not the animation, because I think animation might not work. So if it's not equal this, then we can cancel the right mouse button event. So on the true, we will remove one tag, which will be firing arrow. So remove gameplay tag, character checks can fire arrow, because if the arrow was ready and we could fire it and we didn't remove it when we released the right mouse button, then the next time you would start aiming, you would be able to fire arrow. So we need to remove the fire arrow. And then we want to also do this, stop bow aim. Control X, Control V. So we will stop bow aiming, and then we just continue with this rest of it. Except for we don't need this last switch now, because we've done it in the beginning. So stop bow aim, and that will go to remove current action tag. So if we are not firing arrow, it can also cancel one of these montages, even on the bow and stuff. But if we are firing arrow, we won't stop it. It won't pass this check. It won't pass this branch. So what we need to do is we need to manually check after we end the firing arrow if we want to cancel it. And for that, that's why we set up basically this cancel RMB, which I mentioned that I'm going to explain later. Because when the montage is completed, we're going to cancel RMB quickly, which by the way is this one here, and it needs to go to switch. So directly to switch, it will switch on the bow. It will check its aiming, which will be true, but we're not playing the montage anymore because it was completed, and then it will cancel the right mouse button events. It will reset it, but only briefly, because then we're going to continue action. And if you are holding the right mouse button, you're going to continue right mouse button, which will start aiming again and stuff like that. I know it might seem a little bit complicated, but this is probably the most optimal way I could have made this system. Is just basically now it's going to work with abilities and with everything else as it's supposed to. And speaking of abilities, one more thing we should have removed is, let's go to ability component quickly, edit it, and when we execute ability, you need to also cancel RMB events. And the reason for that is because if you were holding right mouse button and then you press ability, you would stay in a slowed state because it wouldn't remove it, and strafing and stuff like that. Not sure if any of you noticed, but it's not working correctly. So we just need to get owner, and I think we do have interface function, which is cancel RMB. Yeah, so cancel RMB from the owner. And now if you play the game, I think that should be all of it ready. So now right mouse button, I let go, it's zooming fine. I can fire, I can hold right mouse button, and it just fires smoothly. I can move. And I just keep firing. And it's really easy because all you have to do is hold one button and then just press when you want to fire when it's ready. So I kind of like this combat system better than, or the bow system better than when you have to hold left mouse button to actually draw arrow. And then it's a little bit awkward when you release and stuff. This is just very nice. And then you can also, you can fire arrow. And then since we have a continue action set up, if you don't hold right mouse button and you press space, as soon as it ends firing arrow, it will also execute dodge roll or anything else that you have lined up. So that is kind of, that's what I meant by being like fluid, smooth, and no issues. And this is also the thing that if you fire the arrow and release the right mouse button, it will stay there until you end that montage, like this. So even the crosshair and everything, because it won't cancel those events. Otherwise, if you cancel it while firing, you would already turn before it ended. So that's pretty much it for this one. So we're now ready to actually fire the bow and arrow. So in the next one, we can spawn arrow and we can do all the functionality for calculate the range, and we will be already shooting. And I'm not sure if we can make it in one video to actually deal damage and stuff, because that will be different function. So we'll see if I can pack it in one video. And then just to quickly show you with the abilities, I think we do have it enabled on the bow. So if you're holding right mouse button and press 1, I can execute ability, and then it will cancel normally. I can move and everything else. So it's all working together nicely. Cool, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Just one more thing I have noticed when I was rewatching the video. If we start this and then end it, it will still finish drawing and play sound. So what we need to do is in the crosshair, also when you end zoom, we need to clear timer by function name. And that will be zoom crosshair. We don't need to do it on fire arrow, because if we can fire arrow, it already stopped. So that's all.